Hi, this is Jim, and I'm going to be talking about using Yahoo and BigCharts.com to make stock picks. What we're trying to do here is get between a 12 and an 18% return annually. We're trying to buy stocks that are good quality stocks that have some growth to them and that have a high dividend, and we're just trying to buy on the lows every time that stock hits a low. Because in theory it's going to continue to go up because it has growth, and therefore you're just buying on the lows and it's going to get better as time goes along. So this is a stock charting system that I've come up with, and let's see how it works. I'm going to show you the way I've kind of set things up. This is what's called a 7-step process for stock picking at the right price, and we're looking at a form here that I put together, and on the left you see the name of the stock, and we're going to concentrate on Consolidated Ed, which is about halfway down the form, and we're going to be talking about the name, the type of stock it is, the stock symbol, the price on 1/10 of 2014 when this was initially created as our example. And then we're going to go to yahoo.com or yahoofinance.com, and we're going to look at the P/E, future earnings, dividend yield, dividend payout, consistency of dividend, the average price of the stock for the last 52 weeks, and we're going to see if Consolidated Ed in this particular example meets our parameters. First, we go into finance.yahoo.com, and there you have a blank, and that blank is where you put in the name of the symbol of the stock you're going to be putting and using. So you put in Ed and hit search finance. And in this case, here's Ed, and then you click on that and hit search finance. Once you've done that, it'll bring up this summary page. You can see in the top left there's a yellowed area that says summary, and I've highlighted Consolidated Ed, summary, and also it shows people that viewed Ed also viewed other stocks. That doesn't mean that these other stocks are any good, it's just that's what else they've been looking at. So if they're looking at them, you may want to look at them too, and you may want to put those other stocks on your stock chart to see what you think and see if they meet your parameters also. You don't have to, it's just if you want a list of stocks to look at, this is one way to get it. So anyway, you now go, and in your form you now have the information to put Consolidated Ed and the symbol for Consolidated Ed, which is ED. Then you go to the profile, and the profile is highlighted here, and that shows the name is Consolidated Ed. It shows where Consolidated Ed is located. It also tells you that its sector is in utilities, its industry is electric utilities, and it gives you a business summary. So you have some idea of what it is that you're investing in as to whether that's something you're interested or not. Then we go and we put in the type of stock that it is. In this case, Consolidated Ed is a utility, so I got UTL. And you put the price of the stock as of 1/10/2014, which is $54.33. Then you go back to the summary and you look at the P/E ratio. And the P/E ratio is basically taking the price that you paid for the stock and divided by its earnings. So in this case, the P/E ratio is 15.48. If the price had been $100 and the earnings had been $10 a year, your P/E ratio would have been 10. Generally, a stock that has a P/E ratio of under 19, I do not consider to be overvalued. Anything over 19 may be overvalued. Keep in mind that a P/E ratio of 19 means that it takes 19 years of earnings to get back to the amount that you put in for the price of the stock that you just paid for. So keep that in mind when you're buying something. A P/E ratio of 220 could mean 220 years to get back your money. So something to think about. Anyway, you go to column 1 and you put in the column 1, which is the P to E ratio column, you put in 15.48 because that's what we found from the previous page. And we know that that's good because it's less than 19, so we color that cell green. Then we go to analyst estimates, which is down toward the bottom of that summary page, not summary, but down at the bottom of the page that we're looking at. And there you can see that the growth estimate for the next 5 years per annum is 1.38. That means it's only going to grow 1.38% each year. So that's not very exciting when the industry itself is growing at almost 5% a year and the S&P is growing at almost 10% a year. But you're kind of trading growth in some cases for a high dividend, and so you're willing to do that. As long as you can get it at a low enough price, you can still come out ahead. So we take that 1.38 back over here to future earnings, and we say that it's upward. This actually may almost be even because it's at 1.38. That's hardly too much upward, but it's still good enough that I can call it upward, and I'm coloring it green, but it could be also considered even and therefore might be yellow and cautionary, which doesn't mean that you won't buy it. It's just something you need to be aware of. Then we go back to the summary and look at the dividend yield. And the dividend in this is $2.46 a year. The yield is 4.5%. So we take that and our form shows under dividend yield 4.5%, and we want a dividend yield of 3.5% or better, because 3.5% is inflation. And if you get something that's over 6 to 8% right now, you need to be looking at it very closely, because chances are there's a problem with the stock when it's that high. Usually 3.5 to 5.5% is not a problem, and you can live with that, but you need to be careful when you get too low or too high. The next thing we look at is key statistics, and under key statistics we have payout ratio. And what this means is that if I have earnings of $10 a share and I pay out dividend of $7 a share, I've paid out 70% of everything I brought in. And so that would be your payout ratio. You don't want a payout ratio that's too high, because that means that dividend may not be able to be sustained because they won't have enough money to operate on. And in some cases, you'll see payout ratios of 110 or 120%. And that means that they're probably borrowing money because they don't have enough earnings to pay the dividend. So they're just going to go ahead and borrow money and pay the dividend. And so you got to wonder how long a dividend can be sustained when you do that. In this particular case, the payout ratio is, and so we put 70 in the column 4, dividend payout, and we want the payout to be less than 80% of earnings. So we're still good on that. Next, we go to historical prices, and we go to dividends only, and then we hit get prices. And what that will do is show you the price that you're getting paid each quarter, or the actual dividend amount that you're getting paid each quarter. And as long as that's consistently going up over a long period of time, then you're in pretty good shape. If you've only got 1 year of dividends to look at, or it's not consistent, it may be a stock you want to stay away from because you can't rely upon the dividend. In case the dividend is consistent, so we can go and in column 5 and say yes, it is, and it goes up. So we're in good shape there. We want a consistent dividend over a several year period, and we want an upward increase in dividends. Then we go back to the summary and we look at the 52-week range, and all we're looking at is what was the lowest price during the 52 weeks and what was the highest price during the 52 weeks. We take that information and we go to 6A and 6B columns, and we put in the low price of 52.85 and the high price of 64.03. And then we just basically in the third column take that and divide it by 2, add the two of those together, divide it by 2, and come up with $58.44 as the average price. And you want your price that you're trying to buy it for right now to be less than that average price. You don't want the price to be too high when you're buying it. Right now, and as of January in 2014, the price was $54.33, and so you're saying, yeah, that price is less than $58.44, so we're still good. So now you your whole setup and look at Con Ed and see that it was green across the board, although it might have been a little yellow on the future earnings, but it still was in an upward trend, but barely. But it is green across the board, and so yes, you are interested in that particular stock. The other stocks that we looked at, or we didn't look at here, but could have looked at, they didn't meet it for one reason or another. It didn't meet all the parameters, and so they were in negative territory as far as we're concerned. There was only one that we liked, and so we're going to look at Consolidated Ed because it looks like it's got our basic general parameters of being a good stock. So now we're going to go pick price.